Elizabeth Lopez is passionate about the Word of God and spends her time sharing God's love with others. She looks to serve in any way possible because that is the calling on her life. She started her writing journey as a child, and although this is her first published work, she has contributed to many other writings over the years. Elizabeth has always been fascinated with words and reading, something she credits to her late grandmother, Evelyn. Elizabeth's greatest desire in life is to see people healed, whole, and set free by the power of God. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's a pleasure to have Elizabeth Lopez on the show. How are you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm well, thank you. So good to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity and this time that you've given me.
Yeah, it's so lovely to have you featured on P English Literature. I'm quite excited as well. So, Elizabeth, could you tell us about your book, Love, Prayers, and Art Stuff? One woman's hope filled dream of restoration that seemed impossible until she met the one who makes all things possible. How does this book come about? What inspired you to write Love, Prayers, and Art Stuff?
Yes, I went through a very hard period in my life where I was going through a really hard time in my marriage for most of
Mm,
all of my marriage, even in my engagement period, and even prior to then, throughout my life, there was just many hard things that I had to go through, and
mm,
I felt lost. I often felt scared. I had a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, just a lot of depression, a lot of things that were very negative in my life,
mm,
and I was able to conquer those things on my own. I tried everything that I knew how to do, going to counseling, reading books and self-help works and different things like that, but nothing really, was able to fill those voids that I was having in my life. And, my marriage, I was on my
mm,
second marriage and it was headed right for, divorce as well. And I just got desperate and I got to a point where I said, something has to change. And, that's when I started my journey with the Lord. And I just saw some miraculous things happening, in my life right before my very eyes of how he was transforming my life. And then he began to transform my husband's life, who had
wow.
many issues as well, from addiction to, bipolar, you name it, mental health issues, a lot of issues he had in his life. And I just saw how the Lord then began helping him and he restored our marriage. And so when it was done, and I could look back and reflect and say, thank you, Lord, for all the work you've done. I had someone
Mm,
who gave me a prophetic word. And he said, you need to write a book about this, about your journey. It will help people. And I said, oh, wow. I never thought about that. And he didn't
yeah.
know that I was reading and writing books, and writing works. He had no idea, this man that said that to me. So I knew it was from God. I knew it was a divine message and that I needed to be obedient. And that's when I began writing the book.
Wow, that's quite amazing to know. I love the start of it. I love the things that inspired it, and it sounds very amazing to me. Thanks for sharing. Now, I'd also love to ask you, for readers who haven't read the book yet, who haven't read Love, Prayers, and Art Stuff yet, without giving much information away, could they have a sneak of what we had expect picking up the book?
Yeah, sure. I take you on a journey, from when we were living really reckless lives and doing a lot of, ungodly things, to where the Lord really just restored things and made us do things in His way that were
Mm,
honoring to Him, and just took us on this journey that we couldn't even imagine. We couldn't have dreamt up something so good that He's brought all this goodness in our life. And so the book will take you through different chapters on where we started and how we ended up. And so it is very fascinating because, you learn a lot about us as individuals and you learn a lot about us as a couple. And you learn
mm.
a lot about, struggles that we faced, but then how God helped us to overcome each and every one of them.
Wow. I love the sound of your book. It sounds quite intriguing and very captivating to the hearing. I love it.
Thank you.
Now, I'd love to ask you, Elizabeth, I'm curious to know if you experienced any challenges while writing your book. If there is any, could you share with us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
Yes, there was quite a few challenges actually. So in the beginning of when I began to write the book, I went to my first writers conference, and
Mm.
I guess I had some sticker shock, if you will say.
Oh,
I was there and I asked, how much it would cost to do publishing, self-publishing. And at that time, that was about 5 years ago, and the prices were pretty astronomical. It was like upwards of fifteen to $20,000,
wow.
for them to help you with the book. Yeah, and I didn't have that kind of money. We just had a baby, and a lot was going on at that time. We were trying to get our finances, restored and things like that as you hear through the book. So
Mm.
it just wasn't a good time to hear about a $20,000 possible price tag on writing a book. So
Yeah.
that was one of the biggest challenges from the beginning.
Mm.
And then other challenges was just, being obedient and actually going forward with the book. I would always feel the pull to do it and to keep writing and to keep going forward. But then, the flesh side of me would say, like, oh, no, you're not going to do this. This isn't something possible. So those were my biggest challenges, actually doing it.
Wow. Wow, that's quite lovely to know. And I'm quite excited to know how you overcame it. This is something that most people can also find, advice in, because some people always have this as well as some challenges that they undergo. Now, I would also love to ask you, Elizabeth, as authors, we all have different ways of reacting to feedbacks and criticism of our works. I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative criticism of your books if you've ever had one in time past?
Well, interesting enough, with this book, it's only been published for a little over a month. It was published on May 23rd, and it went
Oh,
live on May 23rd. And I've had all very amazing positive reviews. I mean,
that's great.
overwhelming to the point that it's brought me to tears, of how it's really helped people and brought them hope and
Mm,
encouragement. And so that is like amazing to me, right? So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that all those reviews have been amazing. I haven't heard anything negative. But in the past, when I have done writing, I wrote for a company that I worked for, and occasionally, I would hear like, "Oh, we have to fix this," or maybe rework this or something like that. And I took it with a grain of salt. Sometimes I
mm.
thought, "Oh, I thought I had an excellent idea," and then my boss was a journalism major, and so maybe she had better ideas. And so I had to just come to the knowledge that maybe everything I wasn't right, everything wasn't perfect and things need to be edited or reviewed or
Yeah,
redone at some point. And that's
absolutely.
life, right? We could always use correction in different ways.
Wow, I love this. I love the sound of it. Sounds very interesting. That's quite lovely to know. Now, I'd love to ask you, apart from love, prayers, and art stuff, do you have any works you've authored or maybe currently working on?
I have just began my second book about a week
Beautiful.
or two ago. Actually, I just came up with some ideas. I've been journaling and writing things down, and I don't want to give it away quite yet because it's very new and in the beginning. But I also do have a blog page, that I have
Mm.
on Facebook, and I post every day there. It's let me just. I always forget the whole entire name of it, and I want to make sure I quote it correctly in case anybody decides to follow me. I don't want to say it
I think
wrong.
it would be fine to have a link of it in the description part of this interview. I love to
Yes, I
attach a
can do that
link.
as well. Yes, it's called Mending Hearts, Restoration and Redemption God's Way. And it can
Oh,
be found on Facebook. And every day I
oh,
post daily, blogs and just, talking about life and encouragement and
mm,
trying to bring hope and things like that. It's mostly for women.
absolutely.
It is curtailed for women. But that doesn't mean at some point I won't open up to men as well.
Yeah, I love the sound of it, especially knowing that you're trying to communicate hope because I can feel, I think I made a post 3 days ago writing something related to that. There is no hope anywhere anymore in the world. The world is devoured of hope. People are passing through quite a lot of terrible things that they need encouragement. They need
Yeah.
words that would inspire them, words that will keep them from committing suicide, from going the wrong way, from doing things that are terrible. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and I'm quite excited to know about that. And I've left a link in the description part of this interview through a link to that where viewers can check it up.
Yes, I will do that. As soon as let's see. it in the chat, right?
Yeah. Now, I would also love to ask you, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? What are the challenges you've encountered in terms of marketing your books? And what are the mediums you've utilized so far in promoting the book?
Okay, so as far as publishing, I didn't have very many issues, to be honest with you. I worked with a very good company called Tall Pine Books, and they were very helpful. They helped me do a lot of the, the background work. I did have my own design cover. My daughter did that, which was beautiful. She created this picture. She's very good with photography. And, when I would look at her pictures, I said, oh, this is what we have to go with. This is an amazing photo that she took. So that
Mm,
part was done, but everything else, as far as them doing all of the editing and things like that, I paid for certain services for the things like that. It was all very seamless, very good to work with them. And again, that was all God's doing because before I began this journey, as you know, I started off with a place that was, upwards of $20,000 that I couldn't afford. And by the
mm,
time it got to, last year when I started working with this company, it was a lot more of a manageable number for me. And
wow.
so not only was it, an easy experience, but it was an affordable one as well. So
Mm.
it was a blessing from God.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm quite excited to know about that. That's
Yeah.
very great. Now, is there anything that you love to share with the viewers about your book that we didn't mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know?
Well, like I said, my book has so many multifaceted things that are going on in there, and it's
Mm,
quite intense, especially in the beginning chapters. But one thing that I just love to do is just credit God, for everything that He did in the book, all the help that He, gave me along the way, and all of the transformation that took place in the book, seeing my husband specifically, dealing with various addictions from hoarding and alcohol and
mm,
drugs and pornography and
wow.
so many different things that he faced himself, and then to see how God just transformed him and took away the bipolar and all of these addictions and all of these things that he was facing. Just watching that alone, firsthand in my life has been a transformational in a way that I can't even describe sometimes. You when you go through changes yourself, that's one thing, and you're like thankful, right? But when you
Mm,
see it before your very eyes in someone else, and you just see them completely changed into a new creation in Christ, that's mind blowing. It's
mm,
mind blowing. And so my book shows you, that transformation and how it took place, and I think that's something that will fascinate the readers, to know that God is able to do these amazing transformational works in people's lives. You can be, depressed and suicidal. You can be, going through very hard struggles. You can be dealing with
absolutely.
mental illness and, come out on the other side. It's not,
Yeah.
at all um, a hopeless situation if we have faith and we put our trust in the Lord.
That's great. Love the sound of your book. They sound very pulling and they sound like an information, something that we all need in our current world today. So that's quite
Yeah.
amazing. I want to say thank you for writing such a book.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Now, I also love to ask you, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book like yours? What did you tell people in this category?
I would tell them to continue following your dream. If God has given you a dream and He's put something in your, you need to follow it. There's
Mm,
a reason for that. He gives us purpose. He gives us plans. He gives us ideas and strategies and things that He wants us to do. And if we follow His lead, then we are always going to end up doing the right thing because He never
wow.
steers us wrong. So I would
Mm,
say just continue going passionately after whatever God has put on your heart, whatever kind of book He's put on your heart, or poems, or whatever it is,
mm,
documentaries, whatever it is that He has in store, because it's gonna be for a good reason. You're gonna help someone, you're gonna encourage
absolutely.
someone, give someone some hope, whatever it is, make something exciting, a journey exciting for someone else, whatever it is, there's always good to it if you're following, the Lord's lead.
Wow, this is quite inspiring. Thank you so much for your advice. And I'm hopeful that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. So, Elizabeth, on what platform can your book be purchased on in case we have interested viewers who would love to get a copy? On what platform are they available on for purchase?
Yes, currently my book is available on Amazon. You can purchase Love, Prayers, and Heart Stuff on
Yeah, you can
Amazon.
bring the book closer to the camera.
Yes, yes. Here's the
Yeah,
book.
beautiful.
It's got a very nice cover, and
Yeah,
this is the back of the
lovely.
book. Yes,
Beautiful.
you can purchase it for $9.99 on Amazon or $3.99 for Kindle, on Amazon as well if you have a Kindle.
Yeah, that's great. And I've left a link in the description part of this interview to a link where you can get a copy of
Yes,
Elizabeth Lopez books directly on Amazon. So thank you
yes.
so much, Elizabeth, for accepting the invitation to be featured on the show. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my book and to share it with the world. I'm very excited. There's a lot of people that need to read this book. It will help people. It really will. And I've been hearing that from people all across the country. And so I'm glad that it's getting outside of the country now. This is a huge
Yeah.
blessing. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that's great. That's quite lovely. Thank you.